Good morning. I almost went live a little bit earlier. I hit the wrong button on my phone. Anyway, today we look at Proverbs 6 and 7. And as chapter 6 begins, it says, "My child, if you have given your pledge to your neighbor, you have bound yourself to another. You are snared by the utterance of your lips, caught by the word of your mouth." When I first start reading that, I always think, of when you've given your word, it used to be you could trust somebody's word in a handshake, but this is not just talking about that, but it says when you've given your pledge. So it's talking about one of the customs, of Jewish people would be that, that you would pledge something of yours as collateral for someone else. It's like co-signing a loan. And sometimes, we've had, maybe our parents did that for us on a first car loan or on different things, but, they're talking about, not just giving your word for something, but, pledging your land or something of yours as collateral for your neighbor. And so then it says, do this, go to your neighbor and get out of this deal. And, give your eyes no sleep, give yourself, get out from under this burden. And I don't know, I still like to think of it as, honoring your promises, honoring your word. But yet, we don't want to stick ourselves out too much on behalf of others. You need to, to be aware of that, to be wary. Then starting verse 6, go to the ant, you lazy bones, consider its ways, and so don't be lazy, go about your work. The ants, work all year long. You see them going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. They're carrying food down into their nest, and so that they've got food to survive. Or, bees, or, like we talk about squirrels, hiding nuts and hiding everything. And then, of course, they can't find them. But, you prepare, don't just sit back and let everything happen, but yet work to prepare for your future. And it's one of the things that, when we're younger, like when we're in your 20s or 30s, it's hard to think about planning for your retirement and setting up your nest egg and putting money into your 401k because, man, I need that money right now. But, it's too late sometimes to realize that, man, I got nothing. I got nothing saved for retirement. I got, and I can't live on Social Security. So, but, and so, it's, to work and to plan and don't just sit around and do nothing, but take control of your situation and work to provide a living and to plan for your future. Our futures are uncertain, for sure that way. But, when we plan for our future, it's a whole lot better when we get there than if we don't plan for our future. Verse 12, a scoundrel and a villain goes around with crooked speech, winking their eyes and shuffling their feet and pointing the fingers, and it's like, you tell about somebody something and then you wink, you've kind of pulled the wool over their eyes a little bit, or you cross your fingers and you hold them behind your back because you're going to tell a little white lie or a great big one. But, it's, scoundrels and villains, and it's, don't be one of those for sure. But again, be aware of them, to know that there are people out there. And then it says this about that type of person. On one such a calamity will suddenly descend, and in a moment damage beyond repair. And we know people that have, they get by with something for a while, and then, it comes back and bites them in the butt, karma. And then the next thing it says in this, there are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him. And so, you think, okay, there's going to be 6 things he hates and then 7 things that are abomination. Well, as I count the next couple of verses, there are 7 things that are listed. You know, haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart devises wicked plans, feet that hurry to evil, a lying witness, and one who sows discord in a family. Those are 7 things that, you know, that Solomon is saying are an abomination to the Lord. So which of the 6 are the things that the Lord hates? I am not 100% sure, but you know, those are things, again, to be watching out and to be aware of, and to pay attention to. And then I quoted verse 20, I think just yesterday, my child, keep your father's command and do not forsake your mother's teaching. You know, as, you know, learning from our parents, learning from example, and all of that. And I had to raise my head. I tried to read something because there was a notice had come up on my screen, but anyway, don't worry about that right now. It says you'll bind them up in your heart, you know, and basically, you know, trust the words that your mom and dad have taught you, and remember those lessons, and then it goes on and it starts talking about adultery, and you know, and that, and you know, and getting caught, and you know, covering things up. It says, can fire be carried in your bosom without getting burnt? Can you walk across hot coals without burning your feet? You know, when you're doing things you're not supposed to, sooner or later you're going to get caught. Sooner or later it's going to come back and haunt you. And we all know of stories of men and women alike who have been caught in adultery, or who have been, you know, guilty of some crime or other that, you know, they think this isn't going to be a big deal, but all of a sudden it is. And you know, we lose the other person's trust. We lose the other person's respect. And when you lose someone's trust, when you lose their respect, you know, to gain that back is most likely not going to happen. It takes, you know, forever to regain someone's trust when you have let them down, and when you have, or when you've cheated on them or whatever, as this talks about a lot in, you know, like verse 30 of chapter 6. Thieves are not despised who steal only to satisfy their appetite when they are hungry. You know, it doesn't make any difference why you steal. It's still wrong. Yet if they're caught, they will pay. They'll forfeit all the goods. And then, you know, 32, he who commits adultery has no sense. He who does it destroys himself. And it's, you know, both ways. Men and women alike do it. They seek each other out. And, you know, it says he gets wounds and dishonor, and his disgrace won't be wiped away. And so very true. Such wise words of wisdom. But yet, you know, it's out there so much. Chapter 7 again, he starts talking about wisdom as being a safeguard against adultery. You know, to be smart enough to know these different things. You know, keep my words, store up my commandments, keep my commandments and live. Bind them on your fingers, write them on your hearts. You know, and you know, pay attention to God's word. Pay attention to these things. And I've got wedding rehearsal tonight, wedding tomorrow, you know, 5:30 tomorrow afternoon. And, you know, a young couple are going to pledge themselves to each other with words. And, you know, I remember some things of the day that Cheryl and I got married. It's been a few years ago. But I don't remember, I don't know if I can say that I remember anything that the pastor said to us that day. I was so worried about, you know, making sure I got my vows right, making sure this, and wondering about this and that, you know, a lot of that day is kind of a blur. But I remember, you know, pledging my love, pledging my devotion. I remember, you know, making that commitment and honoring that commitment. And and being true to those words, and not having to worry. I mean, I don't have to guard myself every day about whatever it might be, but in some ways I do. But a part of it is that, you know, you make this promise before God, before your spouse, before your family, before your friends, and you honor those. And so it's, you know, she's talking about, you know, again, when you make a commitment, you know, remember that commitment. Be honest in that commitment, and stay up front, you know. And you know, I mean, in verse 6, I look out through my window and I see this. I see a young man without sense, and I see all this going on. And you know, there's so much, you know, in our world today that takes us away from morality, and I see some of what goes on in our movies and in our people that are held up, you know, as examples and stuff, and it's, you know, it's a sad thing, and I'm getting long again today, as I always do, but I remember reading a deal that after this couple had gotten divorced after 6 months of marriage, that the one of them said it was nice to know that teenage love still exists, or young love still exists. And I thought, that wasn't love, it was just pure and simple lust. You know, to love means that you commit yourself to the other, that you put the other person's well-being, you know, equal or at a higher level than yours, and that you don't ever give up on it, and it isn't something that you just bounce into and out of. And you know, you talk to I said I've got a wedding, and this young couple, I'm sure they're not saying, well, you know, we're going to get married and try it for, you know, an average wedding today is about 8 years. They say, well, if we make it that long, we'll be good. No, that's not their attitude. And it's not the attitude that God would have us have coming into any relationship. But to honor our words, to honor our vows, to honor our spouse, to honor ourselves before God.